Now we are going to bring to the stage just a delightful, brilliant, just spiritually grounded, supportive sister. I say all those things because she has been all those things to me in our nearly 5-year friendship, Miss Gina Reese of Connect Centric.
Hi,
How
Nick.
are you?
Hello. I'm doing
Look, girl, the
wonderful.
button is, I got a red button this time. All right. So, so we're doing
Oh,
good. How are you doing
yes.
today?
I'm doing wonderful, Nick. I'm so just grateful to be here talking with you today about the bow and, business. So thank you for letting me be one of your first guests on the show.
Well, thank you for saying yes. I just had a terrific conversation with one of our Bow sisters. We'll bring her back in a moment. But I want to take this through like a Michelle Obama becoming moment. All right.
I
So the
love
first half
Michelle.
of the interview, yes, I want to go back and I want to see little Gina. I
Oh,
want to figure out like what was that first stage? We got, 3 or 4 stages in our life, but the first one is our foundation. Our first one is where those entrepreneurial seeds may be planted by the community. And sometimes it's good things that's happened, and sometimes it's hard things. But I want to know, what was your upbringing like? Tell us about your family. Tell us about, your friends, who you played with, who inspired you.
definitely. Thank you. I mean, that's a great question, Nick. And I will tell you, I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for my mom. So growing up, I am a military brat. My dad was an army officer, and we lived in Germany. And then he was stationed to the Pentagon in D.C. And so when we moved here, my mom started framing outside of the basement of our home. So she was doing art and framing,
Mhm.
and she grew the business to, over the 20 plus years to over $1 million. And
That's
so
amazing.
seeing that, yeah, so it was amazing actually seeing that as a child, your
Yeah.
mom working hard to grow. Her idea was to bring art as an investment to the military soldier. So she secured 5 different locations on different military installations.
Wow.
And, on Saturdays, we'd, as a family, when kids were kind of going to soccer practice or this or that, we were, as a family, going to the store at Fort Belvoir, helping generals and lieutenants and sergeants with their art and framing needs. And so seeing that as a child was
Yes.
so impactful for my, I guess, entrepreneurial journey. And so she is the reason why I am here today. Is those moments, watching her grow her company from the basement all the way to what it is and what it was today.
That is fantastic. And I got such a visual of a little Gina like on her, your girlfriends are out, playing and doing
Hmm.
things, and you were helping run that business,
Yeah, I
right?
was measuring pictures. I was picking frames. I was doing all that sort of stuff, working
That
side by side with my siblings. And, my favorite stories when I was a kid, and, and maybe nowadays this would be child labor. So, but maybe not.
it's the
Um,
best. I'm
it's
attest
the
to that.
past. But I remember my mom needed some help that night framing, and so we were up to like 2, I think it was like 2 in the morning, and the only thing I wanted to go to Denny's and get me an ice cream sundae. And you know what I love, because that is still such an important memory. I was probably 12 at the time, but I
Mhm.
know she must have been so tired. But when all the framing was done, it was probably like 2:30 in the morning. She took me to Denny's, and I still
You went to
remember it to this day,
Denny's.
sitting across from her getting that sundae. But those are the moments, I think, that really created the path to the person I'd become. And so I always knew I wanted to start a business. I didn't know what I was going to do or what I was going to
Mhm.
be. Even in college, I started a business selling designer jeans online. So it was when the designer jean,
What year was that? I'm
industry.
like, you were a
Oh my,
trailblazer, right?
1999, 2000. So
Girl,
it was,
you were just born a couple years before. Girl, you
yeah,
were you could have beat Amazon. Oh,
I
dang,
know.
mind
And you,
blown.
and you know what limited me, right? Funding. I didn't have the funding.
Funding.
So I should, yeah.
Girl.
So fast forward a few years, that didn't work out, but it really helped me kind of solidify the idea that I knew I wanted to work for myself.
Mhm.
I have, an IT background. I love computers and I love just working with technology. And so I started consulting. My first job out of college, I worked at Jacobs Engineering as a computer analyst. And then I finally decided to go out on my own when I was offered a full-time position with one of the big five consulting firms to help them
Okay.
stand up their new agile practice. And at that moment, I was like, I think I could do this on my own. Let me try it. I think I was 25 at the time, so 20 plus years ago. Maybe
No
not 20, what,
limits.
about 15 years ago. Let me not put myself too high up there, but about 15 years ago. And I decided to go out on my own, start my own consulting firm providing agile coaching and agile transformation services. And
Okay.
so from there,
Your parents say, I know
oh
they were
my,
such a big influence on you. How your dad was in the military,
mhm.
how and how they are with their children. Did you get any kind of resistance, or was he like, go for it?
Oh, great question. So it's funny. My parents have always been 100% supportive. My dad is for sure the realist. My mom's a dreamer. So it's actually, I will tell you, I have best of both worlds. I'm a dreamer with a little realism sprinkled in. But
Hmm.
I was 25 at the time. I'll never forget. I was having this conversation with my dad, who again is one of my biggest supporters. So he's going to watch this. So, Dad, you've always supported me. But I'll never forget the conversation we had. I'm like, Dad, I think I'm going to go start my own consulting firm, to kind of teach people what I know and help organizations with their different problems and institute agile, the agile methodology. And he was like, oh, that's a good idea, but do you think you might need a few more years of experience? And I was like, no, I'm good. I got this,
Never
and I
even felt that. You're like, I know everything I need to know.
was never a question. And it's funny, Nick, because as I started growing my company, and I'm 25, 26, 27, and I've always looked younger than I was,
Mhm.
but I go to these meetings, and I remember the program officers or the contracting officers would say, "Wow," or the potential customers, "Wow, I wish my kids were as put together as you." And I remember thinking, I'm not going to get the work. I'm not going to get it. Um, but to answer your question, other than that one kind of event with my dad, him saying maybe you need a few more years experience, they have been nothing but supportive and really they are the reason why I'm here today. They've been this amazing support group to say, yes, you can do it. Anything you can put your mind to, you can
Yeah.
do it. And so that's has been just a huge impact.
No, I feel the same way. I sense a theme of support going here. So we know how little Gina came, badass Gina. I
Yeah.
love I love it. Like just no limit. Some people are limited. They literally can't see themselves doing stuff. And other people are like they can't see themselves not doing stuff. And that if you want to start to see the ingredients of the entrepreneurial soul, I really believe that that is a secret ingredient is that you're like, I see it. Of course I can. I just got to
Mhm.
navigate the road, right?
Yep. And I forgot to mention, I don't know if you can see behind me, but I mean, the growing up in the art environment, I have such a extreme love of art. And so my favorite artist here,
Mhm.
Tina Palmer, she just dropped this off for me the other day.
Oh my
I
gosh.
love artwork.
Shout out.
Yeah, but those sort of moments really have shaped the person I've become as well. Not only as an entrepreneur, but the things that I move towards. So if I come into your house, the first thing I'm looking at is your frames. I'm like, oh,
Is your
that's a good framing job. That's a nice piece of art you got on your
girl,
wall.
look, you and your mom can come into this house. We got IKEA paintings up here, girl. We need the upgrade. We need an upgrade. I'm like, ooh, that color matches my scheme, and that's about it. So you might have another customer for your mom.
My mom could help. Janice Art, yes.
I love it. I love it. So let's pivot now. We've got a real amazing sense of your family and how you became. Now you're this business woman that has taken her business to the top 0.5% of all facets. What, as you look back, was the one or two critical things from taking yourself from a startup to that pivotal number?
Yeah, I would say a big one, and I don't know if I shared a lot about what my company does. So we do strategy and technology consulting. So I jokingly say this, but in all seriousness, I call it like a baby Accenture, baby Deloitte.
Mm-hmm.
But the idea is really, and it's in the name, connect centric. It's making sure that human connections are at the center to everything we do, because at behind every engagement, every customer, there is a real person that we're supporting, that we're helping. And so the pivotal moment was really, again, thank you, Mom, the kind of guidance to say, hey, have you thought about federal government contracting? You
Yeah.
know, at the time, 2009, I had just started consulting on my own. I was, working with Freddie Mac, the Washington Post, with those agile transformations. So I was a solopreneur. I was a single consultant
Yeah.
with this grand vision. And so from that moment to when I won my first contract that grew my company outside of myself, that was 5 years. So 2013,
Gotcha.
I secured my first federal government contract. And so that journey was really the relationships, right? Developing the relationships, the certifications as a woman business enterprise, WeBank, that was huge to, again, provide that avenue for the government to reach back. I was
Mm-hmm.
also an 8A small business, so I'm now a graduate, but I was in the 8A program, learned so much about the government and also about how to work with the government through those years. And then a big part is how to do business with the government. So the Small
Yeah.
Business Administration, I worked alongside all the free programs that they were given to just learn
Mm-hmm.
about the industry. So that true pivotal moment, Nick, I would say was just that sheer determination that I'm going to grow outside of myself. I don't know what that looks like, but I know that there's all these resources that I need to make sure that I consume in order to put myself in the best position to be able to do so. So hope that answered.
Oh, no, it more than answered it. And again, I'm connecting the tissues here with yours and Teresa. She gave a story about when she before she started her business, she got this position that she said it was a little out of her depth, but she would be there 9 to 5 on the clock, and then 5 to 11 off the clock, learning her trade, learning her craft. And so maybe that is the second tissue of the entrepreneurship, is that always open to learning and to growing
Mhm.
and getting those resources, right?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
I do feel you had referenced the SBA, you referenced WeBank in terms of the certification. As a small business consultant myself, I am always saying never go it alone. There's absolutely no reason. Your idea is not so novel that no one has ever thought about it before or put together a system or program to help you do it. And so you absolutely have, you learn that early on, and that led to your success. I'm so happy
Yeah.
to know that.
Welcome.
Yes,
Thank
absolutely.
you.
Now I want to go into the little nuggets of entrepreneurship that we know, and then I'll bring it back out to maybe some of the challenges that you've experienced. We're talking about Black women, two Black
Mhm.
women, and so I want to first talk about access to capital, just as a
Mhm.
general topic that entrepreneurs always have challenges, whether you're starting or scaling. How do I get that money, that operating capital to go? What has been your access to capital story?
Mhm.
Bootstrap. I mean, I'm just assuming that every business that's made it to a million, there is some point in that line where capital is a challenge.
Oh yeah, I will tell you, Nick. I mean, it continues to be a challenge, right? We're in a huge growth spurt, and so
Yeah.
finding banks that will kind of co-sign for a line of credit, it continues to be a challenge. But up until this point, I guess pre PPP, I've been self-funded. I've
Mhm.
been lucky enough to have these amazing contracts, and so I didn't need funding. What I do wish now that I look back is I should have got funding when I didn't need it.
And you didn't need it.
But access, yeah, exactly. That's kind of one of the tips I'll definitely say. But one of the challenges is always going to be the access to capital. As a solopreneur, I have obviously a large amount of net income and consistent 1.2 plus million revenue year by year. But banks don't want to take that risk. And so the question always becomes, okay, what do I need to do to convince a bank? And, everyone talks about relationships and so forth, but I also think it's important to bank with banks that support you. So it has to be this mutually beneficial.
Yeah.
It can't just be this consistent, I'm sending you all my accounts receivables and all this money's running through your bank. But when
Not
I need your
asking
help, you
and not
can't help. So
asking the question. Yeah.
yeah. So access to capital is a challenge, and I honestly, Nick, I don't know how to overcome that. But what I will say is, like most things, you persevere. I'm not a victim mentality person, so it's just I got to find another route to get that. And that's another reason why I love the bow, is because I think part of this conversation you're starting is to say, well, why not? Why aren't we having this access to capital? What do we have to show for you to believe that we
Yeah.
can handle this amount, or that we should be supported in this way after 11 plus 12 plus years in business? What more do I need to show
It's so
consistently?
true. It's so true. And, we'll speak a little bit about that when we bring Teresa back up in terms of what the Bow Collective is and what we want to do. But, we have all had experiences that even though we've grown our company, most of it has been that we've sustained it from the contract itself, that from the customer paying us versus having some liquidity to grow beyond the customer. That is what scaling is growing beyond what we have in the pipe. We have a pipeline, but in order to go after that pipeline, you need those revenues. And so, do you feel that there are certain things in play with you being a Black woman that may have presented unique challenges to you? And if so, you mentioned you're not a victim. How do you overcome those deficits, those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I will say, I think this is normal. I think always in the back of my mind, it's always like, okay, would I be bigger? Would I be more successful if? Would I have had that loan approved or that line of credit approved if? And what it comes back to is, I say this a lot, is still you persevere. That cannot be the reason why I cannot accomplish my goals, and it shouldn't be the reason you can't accomplish your goals. Because I think we will always have barriers in our way, and it would make things a lot easier if they weren't there. But what I like to say, and one thing my dad, one of his favorite people is Colin Powell, and growing up he would tell us, Colin Powell I think once said, you let racism be their problem. And so that was always very impactful,
I
because
love it.
no matter what, when I walk into a room and everyone just assumes maybe I'm the assistant or whatever it might be. No, I'm the CEO of this amazing company, and we're doing these very large scale, large enterprise initiatives. All of our customers are 1,000 plus, large federal agencies, large
Yes.
nonprofits, large Fortune 50 or larger companies. And so having to go into a room and prove myself each time, I just realize I don't I don't need to prove myself.
Yeah.
I know what I can provide. I know my expertise. And so the challenge is always going to be there, and those barriers will be there, but it's my job to still persevere. And I feel that that's what I continue to do. And then I can't do all this obviously alone. And that support network is huge. Who you surround yourself with. I have just an amazing support group around me, from my family to my partner to my friends. You can't do this alone. And having your kind of cheerleaders who are always there,
Yes.
who have your back, are so important.
No, I love that. I love that. So we have one more minute. You have given so many nuggets along the way. So I'm going to revise my question from what advice, because you've given just amazing, amazing tips.
Thank you.
But two things, what is bigger than business for you, Gina? What goes beyond, and whether it is your faith practice, whether it's service, what
Mhm.
is bigger than business for you? And then how can our listeners stay in contact with you?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would tell you, Nick, for me, and I think it kind of shows with my company, Connect Centric, even our logo is actually two C's to
Mhm.
form a heart. So relationships, it's the friendships, it's the people in your life, the people you surround yourself with, and also that support and um, the love that you give other people. And so, I'm very spiritual. I practice intentional gratitude. And I think that's another reason why I've been so successful, is because even when it gets hard, I have to stop myself and say, okay, but think about all these amazing things that have happened today and yesterday and a year ago, and really remind myself of just how lucky I am to be here. And so that would be a big one, is this ability, that intentionality of gratitude is big. The other one, as I kind of talked about earlier, is that support group. I really believe you surround yourself with people who lift you higher. So I've said this before, I have an amazing partner. When I have challenges with my company, he is like my biggest cheerleader, and he like will go to the boxing ring with me, and that's been amazing and a big difference from the past. And so I think that's important, surrounding yourself, that the day-to-day person who's in your life, that they are your biggest support network. And then how to reach me, connectcentric.com is our website. We're currently working on redoing it, but LinkedIn. I'm a huge LinkedIn advocate, and so I'm on LinkedIn a lot. And so if you want to connect, reach out to Gina Reese on LinkedIn, as well as our company page. We'd love for you to give us a follow.